We will just quickly complete this class. I don't want to interfere more about this. Already we are ahead of the syllabus, so no problem in that one. Just 1 second. Yeah, we are seeing the transformation of self, unit 4. So, in the last class, we have just seen this definitions of personality, characteristics and elements of a personality, how the good personality will looks like, what are the ideal characteristics and elements of the good personality. We have seen the many elements for that one. So, all these are the elements. Then, what are the traits of a good personality? We will see today. So, what are these traits? So, first, if you see, everybody needs to be diligent in their life. Okay, if you want to motivate somebody else, if you are diligent in your duties, then uh, you will be an ideal role model for anybody. So, diligent is nothing but refusing to quit. So, in any situation, whatever the situation may be, you can refuse to quit. Just you didn't quit at all easily. So, faced with the challenges of living in a competitive world, you cannot afford to be uninterested. You need to be diligent. So, if you are diligent, you cannot quit at any point in time. If you want to complete a task, you will complete immediately. That's the characteristics of a diligent person. Then diligence gives man the ability and the enthusiasm to understand a time-bound, goal-oriented task, the patience to pursue it cheerfully despite setbacks and failures, and to bring it to fulfillment in a spirit of perseverance. So perseverance is a character. So whatever the failure, whatever the setbacks you are encountered in reaching your goals, you will just do not turn back. You will just immediately say, yes, I can do that one. Immediately you can go ahead, perform your own duty. So that's a perseverance characteristics. So diligent person obviously will have a perseverance characteristics imbibed in them. So diligence gives a fulfillment, security, sense of achievement, confidence, self-reliance, and independence in completing tasks. So you will be an independent person. Okay, you need not to take anybody's help or something. You will show a perseverance characteristics inside of you. Then opposite of diligence is a indolence. So that's a clearly an opposite who will clearly give up at any point in time. If he encounters some setback, he will clearly just wants to uh, drop from that particular goal. So that type of person is called as an indolence person. So which paves this indolence paves a way to lethargy and apathy towards work. So he will be always a lazy person. Okay, he will immediately just when he encounters some certain setback means he immediately revert back from his position, revert back from his career goal. So that's the indolence person, which is the opposite of this diligence. So obviously if you want to have a good personality, good characteristic, so you have to develop your diligent characteristics into you. When you believe something, you have to achieve at any cost, you have to achieve that thing. So that's a diligent characteristics. And fortitude. So the meaning of a fortitude is to have a courage in endurance. So whatever the endurance, whatever the final steps you are going through, in every thing you will show a courage. So yes, I can do that. This attitude you will be imbibed into yourself. So that's a fortitude. So it enables the people to face risk, disaster, and adversity with unflinching determination and strength of mind. So it will give a clear strength of mind. It will give a clear target to you. So that's called as a fortitude. Fortitude empowers the individual with the gift of smiling in the face of adversity. So everything, if you just encounter certain setback means you will show a smile. Okay, yes, this could also go, because change is constant in this world. Whatever the setbacks you are encountered this time will not coming to in your way in the next time. So you have to show that way. So something, the change is constant in this world. This obviously this is also will change in the next step. You have to assume one, you have to move on. So that's a fortitude characteristic. Then being punctual, so you could be on time. Whatever the scheduled time is there, you will be punctual, you will be on time. If you show the punctuality in your whatever the endures you are taking on, whatever the steps you are taking on, so in everything if you show the punctuality, you will be respected more, because you are the on time and punctual person, and honesty. So whatever the honesty, whatever the setbacks or whatever the problems comes to your way, because honesty is the best policy. You have to apply. You have to be honest, whatever the situation, regardless of whatever the situation may be. Being an effective communicator. So communication skills is very much important, because obviously we will speak a lot, we will communicate with each other, we will listen, we will speak, everything will comes under this effective communicating characteristics. So if you effectively communicate them, so easily they will understand easily. If you could not effectively communicate with the opposite person, they could not understand you easily. Whatever you want to tell them, they will not understand that one. So your voice, gesture, your words, and whatever you say are physical ways of communicating. So verbal ways of communicating is also very much important. Speaking, gesture, writing, or the mechanical ways of communicating. Then next one is speaking. So the speaking is the clear, the most important method of what we are communicating. Like speakers, like wherever the audience are there, some speaker will be there. So obviously we will speak and we will tell whatever we feels in our mind. So pleasant voice. So you should have a pleasant voice, a pleasing voice, not just a commanding voice. Wherever the commanding you require, you can command on them. But in every situation, pleasing voice. You have to tell them in a pleasing way. So that's a clearly a good speaking skills. So correct speaking speed. So if you are speaking very speed, so what happens? Nobody can able to listen to you. Nobody can able to catch your words. So you have to adjust your speed according to your audience. So you have to be audible. So your sound, your speaking, everything will be adjustable according to the requirement of the particular environment. Distinct and clear articulation. So you should have a distinct characteristics, distinct speaking skills. That's make yourself apart from the others. And correct pronunciation are necessary while developing the mechanics of speech. So these are the mechanics of speech: voice adjusting, audibility, and correct speaking. Your gesture, everything will come mechanics of a to the according to the environment. So then only you whatever you want to speak, it could be understand by the opposite person. If they understand, they will obviously reply to you, they will appreciate you. That's a clear speaking characteristic. Then a gesture. So usually we will show our gestures through our facial characteristics. So facial or hand expression something. So as you may notice here, whether by being just happiness on your face, it will be visible. You are, if you are happy, you need not to tell that I am happy. So they could clearly understand from your gesture, happiness from your face. They can clearly understand that. Then sadness. If you are sad, you will be just dumb. You will be just sitting somewhere and just thinking about something. Since people clearly can understand that you are sad. And if you are anger, from your face itself, they can understand that you will be angry. If you are fear, you will be frightened. Okay, you will be afraid of something. Then your fear will be appeared clearly on your face. If you want to say something to some person, if you want to appreciate something, you can show the thumbs up. If you want to just click that one or something, if you want to say, you can use your hand. The hand gestures is also important, because every time when we move with the other person, every time when we move with our audience, so we usually 80% of our communication will be an non-verbal means. Okay, we usually rarely we use our verbal expressions. Okay, not for this age, usually the teenage and this some adulthood teenage people, they will usually communicate a lot unnecessary things, they will communicate a lot. But if, when you see in a gentleman case or in some formal case, what happens? Many people will just by using their gestures only will just confirm whatever they want to say to the audience. That's a gesture. Gesture is also important. Not only the verbal expressions, but also non-verbal expressions is also important. Non-verbal expressions are the hand gestures or the facial expressions. Then the writing. So you should be clear whatever you write. So writing will depend on a correct spelling. You should have a spelling, correct spelling. You should spell correctly and clear punctuations, commas and everything, full stops, everything. You should have a clear punctuation, correct grammar. So is the ye and everything you have to use correctly. Then use of connections and or something. You have to use the connection between the different statements. So range of vocabulary, you should have a clear vocabulary range. So in order to communicate effectively to the others, variety of sentence types. So okay, you can use many sentence will be there. You can just jumble that one. You can clearly say the easy way to understood by the audience. Then dividing the text into paragraphs. Usually, rather than keeping a big text of a one-page text or something, it could be applicable in your exams also, because when you're just writing a whole matter in a single page and everything in a single go, so what happens? Examiner could not read you correctly. If you could break a sentences or sentences into a paragraph, it will be a clear that what you have to tell to the examiner. It will be clear, and you find a very easy way to avoid your more marks. Otherwise, if you are giving a clear answer in a just 1 or 2 pages means, so that much page nobody will have a time to read to that one. So they will just go to the important points. The important points could be visible by breaking the your sentences into the various paragraphs. So that paragraphs will be clearly seen easily, that could be readable easily. Then your understanding, the examiner's understanding will be very much high. Then you could be able to clearly give your marks, more marks. Then awareness of purpose and audience. So when you are speaking to somebody, so first you have to know your purpose, why you are speaking. If there is no purpose, what's the point in speaking there? So you should know the purpose and your audience, what is the level of your audience. So for example, the same class I am taking, this class I am taking to the first standard, the second standard, I have to adjust a lot. I have to adjust according to my that students. If you am taking to you who are in the first year of their graduation, so my speed, my audience are different, my speed, my voice, okay, my level of giving a speech, everything will be different. Like that way, you should be aware of that one. Who are your audience, what is the purpose of speaking, and everything. Then organization. So what type of organization that is, whether it's a formal organization or say formal organization. Then coherence, cohesion, correct spelling. So this all things are the corrective nature, corrects your writing ability, corrects your transforming ability. So it is very important for a well-trained career to have a better and best writing skills. Good communication skills together with a good writing skills will also helpful in developing your clear personality traits. Then listening. So another important part of effective communication is the art of listening. So first you should listen first what somebody is telling. If you are listening clearly, you can understand their problem. Then if you understood that problem, you can suggest a solution for that. If you have a solution, until unless you have a solution, don't suggest anyone the unnecessary solutions. So if you listen clearly, then only you can understand the problem, and then only you can suggest a better solution, or you can just console them. You can show, yes, I could understand that one. By consoling them, it means a lot when somebody is suffering with something. Showing something condolence, showing something to them that you understood their problem, it will mean a lot for them. So you should develop a better listening skills first. First listen, then approach them, then understand them, then you can suggest a better solution. So when someone is talking to you, try to reinforce oral communication with gesture feedback that encourages the speaker. When somebody is saying that, yes, I have achieved this first rank in my class, then you could appreciate. You can just pat on the shoulder, and just that is enough for them. When you're just patting on the shoulder, then they could understand that yes, you are listening to them clearly. You can give a feedback like that patting. When somebody is saying their sufferings, you can just have a hand on their shoulder. You just pat on that, yes, no, nothing is going to happen, something like that. You just express yourself. Then you are expressing, then that could means a lot for them. Okay, then they are not at all uh, want to expect a solution, the best solution from you, but they are expecting something condolence from you. So you could better you could listen first for that to just have a gesture, yet give a clear feedback to them. So you are more likely to get the information or response you want at the earliest if you show interest. If you show the interest, so in their whatever the sufferings, whatever the best things, so if you show that one, better response you could obtain. Otherwise, the speaker will take a long time to part with the required information. If you have a better listening skills, if you are listening better to the other people, then the active listening skills develop. When you want to ask something to the professor or something to the lecturer in your classroom, so how do you ask? If you have a better listening skills only, you could just ask a best question or a better question. Otherwise, you will ask an irrelevant question for the particular context. So what is the point? Everybody will look you as a dumb candidate. So if you have a good listening skills only, you can just ask a right question. So wise man could ask a right question at the right time. So that's a clear, active communicating or listening skills you should develop into you. Always, you should listen first. Then next one is self-identity. So why should we identify ourselves? Okay, why can't you just go as like that? Why you have to identify yourself? If you better understand yourself, you could not be judged by the others. So this was the first motive of defining this unit 4. So if you could understand yourself better, nobody could just judge you. Okay, if you could not understand yourself, nobody will judge. You are a dumb person, or you are a right person, or you are a wrong person, you are a criminal, or you are a good person, you are a heroic characteristic person. Like that, they will, according to their sense, according to their understanding, they will judge you. So when they are judging, you will be confused. Yes, whatever that person judging about me is it correct or wrong. You will be just confused when you don't understand yourself, when you don't identify yourself. If you could identify yourself, you will just defend them. No, I am not that type of person. I have my own characteristics, I have my own personality. In that way, you could go forward in your life. That will be possible only when you identify yourself. That's called as a self identity. So self identity is nothing but a collection of information, beliefs about yourself that you believe and may you believe and may include gender, sexuality, racial identity, and academics. So that does not have any impact on the others. Only you want to identify yourself, how your emotions are, how your personality, how your career, how your beliefs, how your interests, dreams, talents, principles, values, physical features, goals, and everything comes under the your self identity. When you yourself identified, you could clearly find your limitations. What are your limitations? You could clearly identify them. When you understand your limitations, you could not set an impossible goal for yourself. You could set a possible goals for yourself, possible short term and long term goals. If you could not understand yourself, you could not know a better limitations of yourself. If you would not know even limitations, you will be end up you just finding out a wrong purpose or wrong goal for you, picking up a wrong goal for you. When you picking up a wrong goal for you or an impossible goal for you, you will be wasted your whole life in solving that problems, whatever the problems coming from the impossible goals. Then it will be clearly a disaster in your life. So it does so, just think about this self. Does your identity, self identity, will just depend on this one self worth, which comes from what you do. So whatever you are doing, your self identity is only means your self worth or your security which comes from what you have, whatever your possessions, whatever your properties, whatever your bank balance and everything. From that only your identity depends, or a significance. How significant are you in this world? From that only your identity. So answer for this one is that the answer that your identity is not so dependent on this all the self-worth, security, or the just only on the significance, but it does depend on who you are. So it's a clear question mark on us that who we are, who am I. So that's a clear question mark. So you have to identify that one. So we have long been deceived into believing that what we do determines what we are. This is not true, because what we are doing, it's for our living or it's for our survival, everything, but not what you are. It does not define you. If you are practicing a profession of a lawyer, yes, you can say I am a lawyer, but that does not mean that is clearly you. If you are a doctor, you are a doctor. For the identify to identify you from the rest of the world, you are a doctor, but does not mean that you are the doctor. Okay, inside you there is a other self. So that a clear identity you want. That consider, if you the following equations are to be considered for the definition of a whole person. For example, if you see good appearance, if you have a good physical stature, good physical attributes and everything, plus admiration, somebody is admiring you, so that mean that it's a whole person. Then if you are a star performer, whatever in your class or in your company, everything, if you are a star performer, you are a best performer. So plus your accomplishments, whatever your rewards, awards, and everything which you are gaining. So that is also a meaning of whole person. Then certain amounts of a status. If you have a status, if you have a clear accumulation of a recognition of recognition, whatever you have, that recognition of or a status, everything means you are a whole person. So these equations clearly does not apply to the King Solomon. So if you read a Bible, so in that one a Solomon king is there. So he does not have a fulfilled life, because he is not a that much full he does not have a that much fulfilled life, though he's having a status, he's having every accumulation of the wealth, he is admired by many persons, he has a good stature, good physical stature, good physical attribute, everything he have, but whatever he is missing many things. Because of this he is having a many wives, around 700 wives, because he is not at all satisfied, he is not at all looking as a fulfilled life. Every time you want to look for the anything, something else like that one. So this external appearance, riches, whatever you accumulate, your accomplishments, awards, recognition, status, doesn't necessarily reflect or produce internal peace and maturity. So your internal peace and maturity is something else. Okay, it does not comes from your wealth, recognition, riches, or your accomplishments, your awards, rewards, and everything. So it is clearly something over and above these things. So that thing you have to identify. What makes you a fulfilled life? What makes you happy? What makes you be in a peaceful life? What makes you a matured person? So you have to think about that one. So the only identity equation that works is a, so wholeness and meaning in life are not the products of what you have or don't have, what you have done or haven't done. So whatever you want to explore, whatever you want to visit to some place, or whatever you want to set a goal, that means your wholeness, that means your identity, that means for you whatever you are having, your degrees, your properties, your bank balance, everything doesn't mean that you are a whole person. You have a wholeness of a fulfilled life. But what you have to do, what haven't done by you still now, what you want to explore in your life, that means your identity. That means your true self. So you have to identify what fascinates you, what passion do you have. Explore your passion. Then it will be automatically lead to you a fulfilled life. Otherwise, you will have a unfulfilled life as like a King Solomon. So that's a self identity for the rest of the classes, for the rest of these days until the next class comes. Just identify yourself. What fascinates you? Somebody during the first class itself, when we are discussing the strengths and weaknesses, career goals, or the short term and long term goals, many people just said that this creates a happiness, best job, and vlogging. Somebody has to visit somewhere, some place, somebody wants to make a video, somebody wants to vlog, somebody wants to be a blogger, everything. So like these things fascinates like this, they have a clear passion. Just identify whether whatever you said in the initial classes, whether that's a true, makes you a passionate person or not. Just identify once again. Then the next one is a self concept. Then what is this self concept? So self concept, so also called as a self construction. It is nothing but a constructing about yourself. It is also a self identity. So one form of a self identity is nothing but a self concept, or a self perspective embodies the answer to who am I. So who am I? What am I? So that's a self concept. This is already discussed in the second unit itself. So myself, how myself is related to my near and dear, how myself is related to the other persons who are not at all known by me. So that's a self. We already defined the self concept. So what is your self concept made up of? Oh, yeah, made up of. So what is this one? The answer for this who am I is what I made up of, what myself. So your self concept is made up of your self schemas, or interact, or your self esteem. So whatever your self esteem, your self knowledge, your self social self, how you are sociable to others, so how you yourself introduces to others, how your self esteem is there. So everything will comes under your self concept. That is yourself, only yourself, not by other person. How you are relating, how you are related to your relationship, nothing. So how sociable you are, that's a relationship with somebody else. But the self concept is completely you. You just have to concentrate on you only. The self concept includes past, present, and future of ourselves. That is a future self. The future or possible selves represent your ideas of what you might become, what you would like to become, or what you are afraid of becoming. So everybody will have a fear what we will be in the future, what we will be in the next moment, what we have to be in the next moment, what you might be, what we might be in the next moment. Everybody will have a fear. Everybody will have a idea what I am going to do in the next minute, what I am going to do in the next 2 years. That's a goal setting. When you are setting a goal, you would have a fear that whether I could reach there or not. So that's yourself. That is also that your fears, your whatever the happening in the present, everything means that that to yourself. These correspond goals and threats to your own self. So everything, every expression, every form, your hope, fear, standard, goal setting, or threats, whatever the strengths and weaknesses, everything comes under the definition of your own self. So during adolescence and early adult years, so nothing but whatever we are facing now, there is a constant process of taking stock of oneself. So you are independent now, okay, not that much dependent what you are in your childhood. So you are almost independent. A sense of independence is there in your mind, though we are somewhat dependent on your our parents, but we are obviously an independent person. So that's a constant process in whatever we are just experiencing now. While a system of values may continue to form, it is possible to persist with some and accept changes in some others. So your, as we already I already said you, our values need not to be a constant. So it's a changeable process, and some value is attracting to you. You will obviously incorporate that value into you. That's a changing value system. So it will be having inside you. That is also your values will also be a part of yourself. Okay, this is for today, the self concept. I think you have to complete your lunch also. Have to go for the third hour. I just want to interact you in this week, nothing else. So I just